Hey everyone, it's Vaughn from the CRYENGINE Discord community. I'm just here with a quick tutorial how to get set up with the custom CRYENGINE build from Github. Just going over it really quickly, so let's just get started. So the first thing you want to do is get access to the Git, and to do that it's pretty simple. You just go here on CRYENGINE.com, go to your profile, make sure you're logged in, go to dashboard, and then under dashboard if you scroll down you're going to have connect accounts, and you want to connect, well, definitely connect your Discord, but to connect your GitHub, do that, and then do this request. Once you fill out the requests, you're just going to have to wait. Usually takes a few days. If it takes any longer than that, just go on to CRYENGINE Discord itself and just ask for some help from someone within the community at least, and they'll get you started. So, but once you do get access to the GitHub, you'll get a link to your email, and the link should bring you over here. If the link does not bring you here, but it brings you into the teams, then you just click on teams. You have your registered developers, you go to repository and click here under repository, and there you go. Now you're within the GitHub. Here's the license agreement. Make sure you follow these steps. These are the steps to build it. Obviously it tells you need the C++ package. Windows, this is the SDK version you want, and optional MFC for your build tools required for the sandbox. This one is going to give you an error as of right now with the newest version of Visual Studio 2022 and the newer build tools. But no worries, you can still build it, and I'll show you how. So once you just read through this really quick, you're going to see, hey, if I open CRYENGINE this, modify the line, get one, modify that, and all that fun stuff, and I'll show you that too. So pretty straightforward licensing, and let's go ahead and get started. So I'm over here on my little folder I made, and ignore that. But for right now, for the SDKs you want to download, specifically these are SDKs that I use currently, but you definitely want the FBX, and if you're going to use Steam, then you want to get the Steam SDK. Now the newest version of Steam SDK is not working with the CRYENGINE game platform, and that's fine. I'll show you how to fix that probably in a later video. So if you can get your hands on an older version of Steam's SDK, then you'll be fine. But with the newest version, there'll be some errors. For the FBX, luckily Autodesk's website is pretty straightforward in downloading older versions of the FBX, and if you go down to here, you'll see that it even tells you, gives you a link for that. It should bring you straight to, oh, there it is, the installer. So it even gives you the installer. You download the installer, install it into its default directory, and then you just want to copy everything within this default directory. This is what I did. It's actually not installed here. I just made a folder called FBX SDK because this is what CRYENGINE is looking for. So I made this folder, and then I paste everything from the install in here. So that's all I did. So let's go ahead and right click. So back in my main folder, I'm going to clone the engine here from Git, pretty much. So we're just going to right click. This is on Windows 11, by the way. Same for Windows 10, I believe. So open up a terminal. Make sure you also installed the git command. So if you go to git.com, make sure you be able to use it within your PowerShell. And same thing with CMake. Make sure you have the latest version of CMake installed. So with Git, I'm just going to say git clone space, and I'm just going to back out of here. Code, copy this to clipboard, go back to this, Control V, enter. It's going to clone, and it's going to take a good minute to do it, depending on your internet connection and where you're from in the world. Sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's slower. It just depends. So as to receiving objects, and it's going to do all its work. Takes a minute. As it's doing that, let's go ahead and I'm going to go Visual Studios installer. And really quickly, I have Visual Studios Professional 2022. I have some updates, but that's fine. Just make sure when you do install Visual Studios 2022, you can use Community. Just make sure you have Development Desktop C++ and Game Development. When you do have that, it's going to give you the MSV 143. So that's the one that's current, that's causing a little bit of issues. But make sure you also have the SDK version that CryEngine says you should have. So make sure you check off that. Everything else you can customize to your liking. And then that'd be it. So once you have your Visual Studios installed, you're all set to go to there. So with that, everything looks good. I'll close out this, open up the folder that it made for me. And then now, with cry_cmake.exe, I'll just double click that. I'll say generate solution. Let it go through its process. As it's doing that, we're just going to go ahead with CRYENGINE.CryEngine, right click. And I'm going to say edit in Notepad. And all I'm going to do is change the ID just like it recommended. I'm going to change it to -git. And this one I'm just going to do space GitHub. Control S to save it. So again, depending on your internet connection and where you are in the world, this could be faster, it could be slower. Just really depends. So as it's downloading, as you can see, we have the CryEngine repository. Under tools, you'll see the tools here. You don't need to worry about register local build. I'll show you a way that you can get your engine registered and start using it. But first, we just gotta make sure we get this. Once that's done, I'm gonna go ahead and open up the CryEngine launcher. Under engines, I'm gonna say locate, and I'm gonna go to my G drive, CRYENGINE Source, just a folder, select folder. And there we go. Now, what you want to make sure you don't do, and this is just my opinion on that, is that if you click these three dots, you'll see launch, create a project, set as default. Honestly, I don't do this because if anything happens with my custom engine and I need to do something, I want this to be always my default. So I know in my mind or whatever that I'm working either with me, like I know for sure that I'm working on the GitHub, like my version, and I'm not messing around with the, vanilla version of CryEngine. So you always want to just leave this as it is. You don't need to mess anything. Like here, if I set as default, it should just say remove default engine, and then this one I'll just leave it as so. So we have our two engines registered there. I'll minimize this for now. So we have our CryEngine source, presets, custom. All this is fun. So before we even hit configure, I'm going to go ahead and go back out, go to my SDK folder, grab FBX and Steamworks, right click and copy, go to my CryEngine source, go to code, SDKs, and I'm just going to paste them in here. And the reason why I'm doing this first before I hit configure is because once I hit configure, it will actually search through this directory, and once it sees these two folders, it would automatically get everything set up. So once that's done, go back out. Now I can hit configure. It's going to take a good minute. Depending on the CMake, how fast it's going to go. All right, all done. And it sees, hey, you notice you're using Steam. Cool, thank you. I'll configure again. Generate. And once it's finished generating, we should be good to go. Come on, almost there. And there, good. Now, do note, if you don't want to use Steam, because it did see it and it did check the box, you can just uncheck it and uncheck game platform. These are all the plugins if you want to use them. If you don't want them to be compiled, like you're just not using them like VR stuff and whatnot, then you could just uncheck them. But everything else we can just leave default for now. For our options, as you can see, we have, here's the launcher executable. If you want to rename it to your game, that's fine. And if we go down further, we'll have sandbox. Sandbox is checked, and that's it. We have a Unity build, and static leaking, and then static leaking with the game as DLL. So depending on which one you want to do, it just tells you like, hey, link all CryEngine modules as a static libs to a single exe, Or you can do this one, build game as a DLL in a monolithic CryEngine build. So this will just take everything within the bin folder, like this, like all these DLLs, well, not all, not the QTs, the sandbox, but all the stuff the engine uses for your release, it will kind of shrink it down so you don't have like massive amounts of DLLs. That's up to you. I just leave them as it is. It's fine. And then for audio, we have Fmod, which is not checked, but we have everything else. If you are using Wise or you are using Fmod, you just have to download their SDKs, make the appropriate folder, and then put them in there. So for right now, we're just not going to do that, but it's up to you. So with everything generated, everything ready to go, I'm going to go ahead and hit Open Project. It's going to launch my Visual Studios. And here we are. So with this open, we're going to have CryEngine, external project, the RC compiler, and projects. So we can add our project into here. I'll show that in another video, but for right now we just leave it as game SDK. What we're going to focus on is everything else. So we have our RC and we have our sandbox. Now there's an error with the sandbox editor common, and that is because there's a flag we need to set. So before we get started with any of the building, we're going to go ahead and right click on editor common, go to properties, we're going to go to C++ advanced, all configurations active, and we're going to add this flag. It's just semicolon 4996. Once you add that, hit apply, and we're going to do the same thing under sandbox properties, all configurations, semicolon 4996. It's probably not needed for sandbox, but I'm just adding it anyways. Apply, okay. And now we can just go build all. Now, depending on your PC, this might take a very long time. It might take half the time. It really depends on your computer, and it depends on what you're doing also. So if you did build all like I'm doing now, you might just want to get up, make yourself some coffee, watch a quick show on the TV, whatever. It might take 30 minutes. It might take less. Sometimes it can take an hour. It really depends on your computer. There is no faster way to compile the entire engine. It just really depends on your hardware. But as it's going through this, and I just want to let you know too, if you want this to go faster, you can just compile everything one by one. So what I usually do is I group things with control and then control shift, holding control, like clicking on one project, sorry, and then with control shift hold being held down, I can go down to CRY and then now have them all selected, and then I can right click, and then I can tell the system, hey, build these things one at a time. That's sometimes faster than doing build all under this, but we'll see. Hopefully it doesn't take too much time, but if it does, then that's what it is. And the reason why I'm not going to cut the video is because if some error pops up, which it will, there will be an error, and we'll tackle that once we get there. But if there's an error pop up, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page, that I see, like, if I have the error, then most likely you will too. So we'll just let this do its thing. And a matter of fact, I kind of wanted it to go faster, so what I'm going to do is break the build really fast. It's on... Oh no, it's going pretty quick. Debug. We're on expat. 3D's done. Creating directories for RC. We're going to have an error within RC, but I'll show you how to fix that. Well, that's fine. I'm sure it'll probably go faster too if I wasn't in debug mode. That's another thing. I'm in debug mode. You can compile the engine profile. That's fine. It'll compile the engine a little bit quicker. But you just won't get more information when something errors out. So if you want to know specifically if something happens, then just keep it in debug mode. And then when you do your game project itself, like working within your game project, you can just leave that in profile. Either way, we'll just let this go through. Where we're at, scale form schematic. All right. configuring Qt. And we can double check too if we go CRYENGINE Source, bin, and 64. So it's done all these so far. Now there's something we need to add. There's some DLLs that are missing. That's not, and that's scale form. So scale form is not given out anymore, unless you can get your hands on it. But unfortunately, it's just not given out. And the last version of scale form, I don't know if CryEngine, or if Crytek used the last version of scale form to compile. Because I have a version of scale form, but I don't know if it's the correct one. But either way, it doesn't matter. We don't need to worry too much about it, because we're not going to mess with scale forms like SDK code whatsoever. As it is, it works. It works as good, so there's no reason to mess with it. But just remember, for our custom engines, there are DLLs that are just not included, and that we can find for, if we go to our vanilla engine and we go to Reveal Fire Explorer, close this down, go to bin, Win64. The ones that are not included are going to be right here: Scaleform DirectX 12, Scaleform DirectX 11. I think we can compile that one, but you might as well just grab this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Just grab all the Scaleform stuff and throw it into here after you finish compiling the engine. So once the engine's fully compiled, then grab these Scaleform ones from Scaleform down to here. We'll grab these and we'll pop them into our custom engine. And the reason why I say that is because I can't remember if it's all of these or some of these, but regardless, doesn't matter. Just grab these, throw them in here, and if we do need to recompile the engine for anything, then it will override the ones that it won't override the ones we need. So pretty much, this is a safer way to do it. So I already saw some errors from RC compiler, and we'll fix that really quick too. So for down by RC, I think it should be, and here's the winner launcher project. So a resource, header file, okay, cool beans. Now we can change the icon too for the launcher. So luckily enough, since we have the source version, we can change the icon for both the game server and the launcher. And the launcher actually doesn't, the launcher itself, like the naming, doesn't matter. CryEngine does not care per se. You can change this to the name of your game. But to me, it's always best to do it within here. So if you want to change the launcher name, you just go to under options and right here. And we change the name here. You can change it like this, but if an issue comes up, it's better just to do it from CMake GUI. So as that's going, how far we're in? Yeah, we're doing sandbox now. So we got most of our stuff done, and we can see rendering. I don't see Scaleform. Okay, so Scaleform schematic is build. So we don't need Scaleform. We don't need the schematic one. So well, like I said, regardless, it's best to grab these. RC compiler, something with, yeah, double float, doesn't matter. And more of the sandbox. Failed on the RC project. Ooh, womp womp womp. That's okay. I'm expecting the RC to fail, so no big issue there. And I'm expecting the game platform Steam to fail also, but no biggie there. And just a heads up too, for people who don't know, under the CryEngine common folder here, project folder, we have Cry API examples. If you want to know anything, I know the documentation is down right now, but if you just want to know some interesting methods of programming from Crytek itself, or from CryEngine, you have them here. So we have CryAction. We can do CryAction, so it shows you, hey, these are the includes, and this is just a basic way to do your CryAction and whatnot. Register keybinds. Animation, AMIK, controller events, all the animations are there. The examples, these are just examples pretty much. And then entity system, a whole bunch of examples there. Cry network, not a lot, just one example, unfortunately. Cry physics examples, and then Cry system. You have virtual reality, which is not a lot. Once again, just one example. File system, which is really good to know. And then console command, console variables, and then the minimal plugin. So if there's anything you just need a reference or quickly, Cry API examples, it's all in here. Very good. I use it a lot sometimes when I forget things. So just letting you know, it's there. And if you need to understand how they built the game SDK, here is the game SDK. So here's all the game SDK code. Now, I would say two things to give note. This code is kind of built prior to the entity component system that CryEngine came out with. So there's a lot of things in the game SDK that's like years ago. How would you develop a game within CryEngine? There's newer methods, and newer tutorials into creating games within CryEngine that are not really compatible per se with the game SDK. But in all honesty, if you are just making a simple, like really simple, or trying to make a very simple first-person shooter, then I would point you to the game SDK. Unfortunately, though, there's so much code here that if you have any questions about how do I change something within code for the game SDK, well, there's so much here that a lot of us don't pay attention to any of this code because it's not really relevant per se. I mean, some of it is, but it's not like, I don't think there's anyone within the community, or even probably Crytek, who knows like in and out all of this stuff in that sense of what, like, any questions you might have. But it's here. I mean, there's a lot of good references, like AI. You know, this is how they've broken down the entire AI system, or the AI gameplay for the game SDK. You can see the modules, how it does it. But the newer way to do AI per se is actually not using that method. You can use kind of that method, and then you can use CryEngine. If you go to the AI system, we actually have components here. So here are the components for the AI system. And then you can use the components and build on top of these components to interact with more of the AI. Then doing it this way, the older method, which you could still do. If you want to go this route, then by all means go this route. But there's a lot of interesting stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I like. For me, I yoink some code from the game SDK because I'm like, ooh, that's a good method to use. So it's not like, it's a good reference tool, pretty much. Like, that's, at the end of the day, it's just a really good reference tool, the game SDK. I wouldn't advise using it to build a game off of. There's just a lot of stuff that's hard coded within the game SDK that's a pain in the butt if you're trying to change. But it's a really great reference tool. And everything else here is a great reference tool. Cry Network is a pain in the butt to go through, but it's there if you want to go look through it. VoIP does not work, so ignore this. This is all owed. As you can see, if we click on it, it says owed voice system depreciated. So all this stuff is hogwash. But I am working on a plugin, a few of them actually, with Mumble, ViaVox, and another one. So hopefully I can get those out to everyone that they can start using VoIP again. You don't have to build it yourself. But I had to reference this a lot because this is actually pretty good, how they did it. So anyways, so that's Cry Network, and everything else is here. If you want to do DirectX 12, now do note you can run everything in DirectX 12 and you'll be fine and dandy, but there is some missing features from DirectX 12 that it is not featured in CryEngine right now. So I would still use DirectX 11. DirectX 11 is great. Nothing really wrong with it. It works just fine for everything you need. Just do note that DirectX 12 there is some limitations that they didn't add yet, but I think it's only a few features here and there. So anyways, so now we compile we have 441 errors. That's fantastic. What's the output? 2 failed. All right, so I already know the 2 that's going to fail, and that's the RC compiler. So if I right click and build this again, it's going to say, hey, error, error, error. So it has to do with a lib, an old one, or an old SDK, Ambic. So it's right here. And all we need to do to fix this error is say enter include functional. Save that, and if I build now, so all I do is include the functional, and it fixed this because it's using std functional or binary function, and for some reason it wasn't included. I don't know. I'm not in charge of this SDK, so God knows why. So, and looks like everything's going good now for the RC compiler. And if we can check now, so that's the two engines. Here we go, CRYENGINE Source. And let's go over to Tools, RC, and here we go. RC is compiling. Now you could drag and drop the RC compiler from the other engine, from the vanilla engine to here, but you know, here's your fix, so you don't have to do that. And now we succeed. So now if I go back to build all, right click and build, everything should be good to go. Great. So these errors have to do with Steam, and I'll fix this. It's actually some code that they changed, like this one, they changed this to dots. I believe it's Unit 62, so we just need that. So that's for that. It's this Unit 62 that is getting return output, which would be no. And that's that. I'm trying to remember. So the Steam IP address. So this is a static right here. And that's why it's not this anymore. If this was here, then it'll work, but it doesn't matter. You can just reference. If I go back out, just do that, fixes that problem. iGame server has no member heartbeats. They changed heartbeats. Heartbeats is not used anymore. You have to use a new method, so you can just get. There's some other some other things we have to fix here, like this too. But again, if you're not using Steam, don't worry about these errors, because everything else build just fine and everything else is working. And if you can get the older version of Steam SDK, then this will still work. Like I said, it's just the newer SDK for Steam. A lot of things are depreciated, like send user disconnect is now depreciated. If you go to Steam and you type in send user disconnect, you'll see that it's depreciated. Should be called whenever user leaves. Depreciated. This function is removed in the upcoming versions. Please migrate to begin off session. And I have game SDK with Steam with this all fixed, and I'll make a video on that. But for right now, just don't worry about it. It's not a big problem. It's not going to stop you from using the engine. So, and like I said, if you do need to use Steam and you don't want to try to fix it yourself, you can just copy over the game platform Steam, which is CRYENGINE platform Steam. So you can copy over this DLL into your custom engine. That way you have it and you don't need to worry about it. So let's go to Scaleform, and I'm going to grab all of Scaleform just because I just want to make sure I have it all. I'm going to paste it in here, and there we go. So we have all the Scaleform we need. Whoops, I pasted it in the wrong place. Whoops. So, source bin 164. Paste that in there. I'll skip that one. And there we go. So I have all the Scaleform that I need in Win64 bin. And now, if I go over to Game Launcher and I go to projects, let's just add a new project. I'm going to select my Git, create new project. I'm going to change this folder destination to my G drive. Select. I'm just going to do a top-down shooter. Create project. And we'll see if our custom engine builds. And it should. I have very good confidence in myself. Preloading textures. Then there's some other things you can do too to make things run a little bit quicker. Right now under engine, everything is here. If you're not changing any of this stuff, just go to 5.7, the vanilla, and just grab these pack files and just paste them in here. It's just like you don't have to repack these if you're not changing these, but you can change them. They're here to be changed. Like you can change all this shaders. You can go in here and start messing them about. But if you're not going to touch any of that, just grab the pack files from the vanilla one, and you can drop them in here. Let's go over to here. It's taking a minute. If it crashes, it's not a big problem. I kind of want to crash it just so I can see. Yeah, close program. Go for it. And if I come out of here, go to my project now. Launch an editor. It should launch me 5.7.1. There we go, everything launched. Let me close this and double check. Show more options. Make sure it's using our R1, so let's go to select engine version. Git, okay. Do you want to back up? No, there's nothing to back up. Launch editor now. Preloading default textures is taking a hot minute. And I'm thinking, yeah, if I use these pack files plus, no, I don't think I need anything from editor. Let me go over to CRYENGINE Source, editor. Yeah, everything here is fine. Let's go ahead and grab these. Copy. Paste them in there. Close the program. Source, local G, my project. Make sure it should be on the new engine, so I'll go ahead. Still taking time. That's fine. Open with Visual Studio Code just to make sure what engine version is using. Yep, it is using the Git version. Everything else is fine. So we can close out that. That's okay. Default textures is taking a hot minute, but that's fine. Let's see how long it takes. And the reason why I'm just letting this happen is because if I have an issue, you will have an issue. You might not have this issue, who knows, but if I have it, we can fix it together and we'll all know the fix. And it's curious to me why default textures is taking a while. Yeah, we did see make build all, so we're fine there. Let's double check on Task Manager to see if the sandbox. No, not you. Sandbox. Oh, resource compiler. Okay, so no, we're still good. All right, so it's just doing its thing, and we did build it in debug mode, so. I wonder, it might be faster if we change to profile, build the engine, and then build it in profile, and then build it also in release. And that should fix. Well, actually, build RC compiler and release. Let me do that. Close program, close. So RC compiler, switch over to release. Okay, and then we're gonna build this in release mode. And if I go to engine, CRYENGINE Source, tools, RC. Well, these are still there. That's fine. So let's see logs really quick. Yeah, it was in debug mode. So it's processing those things. Okay. So we're going to do this in release mode. Let that do its thing. Creating library, RC prefix. Just double checking on things. Looks good, looks good. What was that? Interesting on that one. Let's see. So we're building an in release for RC compiler. Sometimes this happens. And like I said, you don't have to build the entire engine in debug mode. Or CMake build all. Like, if you need to, you can select profile or debug whatever, and you can just build your DLLs as needed. Same thing with sandbox. Like, you can just build the entire sandbox and release, and then only in profile, and that's it. It's really up to you. There's no right way to do it. It just depends how you're gonna do it and how long you're willing to wait, like I am, for this to finish. Like me personally, if I mention it, I think I said debug, but I just do everything in profile. Had a reminder come up. So it's going through all this stuff. Oh, stealing thread pull. Why are you stealing it? Sometimes you just wish it goes faster. This is the fun part about programming. This right here, just staring at this. This is all the hopes and dreams of all programmers, is staring at this window to see if it succeeds or fails. Combine normals, color charts, Now, mind you, even though you can use the custom engine, when it comes to things like the RC compiler per se, what I mean by that was, like, let's say you're doing models and importing them. If you do get errors like that, it's like, for instance, your build development. So the way I'm trying to describe it is, right now we're in Visual Studios and we have all of this loaded, right? We can add our game project here also. Like you see CRYENGINE SDK, this is the project. So we can get rid of this and add our game project here. There's some more stuff you kind of have to do. You're going to have to CRYENGINE Source. So you'll have to, like, if you go to code, right, and we go to, here it is, game SDK, right? And if you want to add yours, you can put your, game code here too. Ideally, I wouldn't try to do that. Is kind of, you kind of want to figure out a way to, like, create your folder for your game in its code, and then you have to go to tools, CMake, and I think it's build. It should be build or configure. It's one of these .cmake files. You kind of have to do the whole, if you know how to use CMake. Some people do. I know I can do that. It's just letting you know. I'll make a tutorial for that. That way you can build the engine. Like, you can have the engine right here, minimize, and then you can just work on your project, work on your thing. Okay, so cannot open file, XML, Okay, so that's probably because I didn't do build all and release. So that's because I didn't do it in release mode, which is okay. So let's go over to engines. Nope, sorry. Let's go to here and go to my project, and we can try launching it again. It should say fail in RC compiler because it failed to build. Yeah, preloading default textures. Yeah, it's gonna do this. So we'll close this, exit out, and then I'm just gonna go back to actually let's do profile. Switch everything to profile, and then I'm gonna go CMake build all. To succeed. Oh, that's fun. Really? Oh, that's CMake. Duh. Target. So I'm gonna do it this way. So we're gonna do common. Grab these, build those, and then I'm gonna grab audio shaders, grab these, build that, building these separately, the way it can go a little bit quicker. Video is about 40 minutes long right now. Alright, so good. 18 succeed. CryEngine 3D to this. Build selection. Hopefully this gets done soon. And looks like we're almost done. Yeah, this is what I was talking about. Warning. Stir error is unsafe. You want to use S error. So, I mean, if you really want to be a Chad, you can fix that for everything. But don't worry about that. It's a warning that you can definitely ignore. I'm sure with the newest version of CryEngine that will come out sometime soon, hopefully before I die, that all that would be fixed. But like I said, those kind of errors, don't worry about it. What's this under anyways? Oh, PNG. Okay. Oh, that's for rendering, that's why. So we're just building the lib files. CMake libs PNG is done. Profile for expat. And then here we go with the renderer. Crash report. This is so much fun. We're doing the DirectX 12. Font DLL is done. Alright, that's done. Poly. And what is this? Lights? Oh, CRYENGINE. I saw VK, so that means it's Vulkan. Yep, Vulkan. Now, if you really want to have a fun time, create your render with Vulkan. That's always fun. It's a great API. It's just, man, like in my personal opinion, I done Vulkan, but I like DirectX 12 just seems more simpler to me. It's odd. I feel like only a few people really say that sometimes. It's like Vulkan's really cool because you can do it with so many things. I'm like, yeah, I guess. But simplistically, I like DirectX 12. I mean, they're both doing the same job. I mean, well, DirectX is more for Windows, but you get what I mean. All right. Got that done. It says DirectX 11. We did 12. We did Vulkan. Why is it? Oh, okay. Let's see. All right. Done with that one. Or creating that one. Come on. Cry live. Do. Hopefully we're at the home stretch here. Cry input. Eye tracker. What is this? When you learn things. Eye tracker. What does that refer to though? It's not being used. Eye tracker for Windows covering eye access. Oh, okay. Oh, cool. Yeah, there you go. Look at that. Super neat. Didn't know we can enable that. Mouse, keyboard, track IR. Oh, no. I guess we could just get that edit yourself now. So yeah, get rid of it. Learn something new every day. I didn't even know about I didn't know about these two, to be honest. But then again, I'm never really in this project folder, so I don't really touch it. And Cry Network and Cry Movie. Track source, that's for that. Alright, yeah, I know what that is. Cry Network. Yeah, that's a fun bit. And CRYENGINE. A simple HTTP server. Nothing simple. AI files, debugger. Nothing simple. Schematic. Hopefully this is not too boring, but hopefully we get done to this pretty quickly. Dynamic response system. What are we, tomfoolery up there? We got finished, I think. Oh man, you think it would go quicker? Might should have broken up a little bit more. I mean, I could stop it and say cancel and then try CMake build all. But then I feel like I wasted my time watching this. But I'm going to do it after this is done. I just feel like, I don't know, me personally, I just feel like this is a little bit quicker. Even though it doesn't seem like it. There we go, 30, well, say that, 37 complete, went up to date. Alright, so now I'm going to hit CMake build all under profile. So it will skip everything we done earlier. So anything that we did do is going to skip it. We'll skip those. Don't have to worry about that. And then we'll move on to things we didn't get. And let's see. Done with those. Game platform. That's going to error out, but that's fine. Game platform nodes. Yep, there goes go game platforms errors. Yeah, my plan for the VoIP thing, I think I mentioned this before. I'm working on it. I'm trying to finish it out a little bit better. I'm going to make it act the same way like game platform. So just like we have game platform nodes, Steam. So I'll make the ones for Mumble and then ViaVox. And I think there's another VoIP I saw that I wanted to try to integrate too. And that way you can just do the same thing like Steam platform. You can just say, hey, add CRYENGINE ViaVox or add CRYENGINE whatever. And I know someone already kind of fixed the Neosis for the GUI. Don't know where he's on that one, but I'll add that too. I've been tinkering with it. I just keep using Scaleform. As much as I want to use Neosis, I just use Scaleform. But I do want to add like what Sunlook did and update his plugin with the newest version of Neosis SDK, which should just work. There's just like a few stuff you have to change within his code to get that working. Plus, he did change stuff within the renderer, so there's a little bit more to it than that because you kind of have to do the fix or the staging that he implemented for the renderer. You kind of have to implement that also. But I feel like if I can, I don't know if it'd be easier just to make that fix and spit out the DLL and just have it with the plugin. That way you don't have to worry about, you can add it to your vanilla, CryEngine and not worry about getting the source code for the CryEngine. I don't know. I'm still thinking on that one. What would be the best way to do it? and the proper way to do it too, so that way I'm not stepping on no one's toes. I'll send an email to Crytek to say, hey, or CryEngine, be like, hey, can I just like create the DLL with the stage API and just add it to like a Git. That way you don't like no one has to go through this whole process of compiling the engine. They can just add the plugin and be off to the races. Because at least with the VoIP plugins that I'm making, like you don't need to do anything with the engine at all. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what they say. Come on. I feel like you're almost done, actually. Should be almost done. We're on CRYENGINE SDK DLL. Editor common. Come on, sandbox. Let's just check to see where it's at. CRYENGINE Source, bin, profile, so 164. So we're still in here. Anything updated time 12, 12:18. So yeah, it did that one. QT doesn't need to be touched. Okay, it's doing that one. Alright, now it's moving. Probably doesn't help either. I'm doing OBS. Done there. Yeah, there's a lot of plugins I kind of wanted to tackle because I'm getting closer to finishing the game that we're creating. So there's a lot of things that I did there that I want to like strip out and make them plugins. But a part of me is like, well, should I do it now or wait for the new version of CryEngine? But then I'm thinking, well, the new version of CryEngine is not going to come out until probably after Crysis, so don't know. Because if I was Crytek, I would release Crysis. Was it 4? Release that, then release the CryEngine, the new version of CryEngine. That way everyone gets excited for both, you know, like, oh, new game, and then, oh, new engine. Instead of, oh, new engine. I don't know. If I was marketing, that would be my pick. As much as it irks me, because it's just like, ugh. But, I mean, as it is what it stands, I mean, this engine itself is still not bad. Does it have, like, all the silly... I say silly. Does it have all the features of, like, Unreal? No. Does it need it? Not necessarily. A lot of features for Unreal is kind of like... I don't know. It's a lot of bloat, if you ask me, and it's a lot more geared towards artistic stuff and to make things kind of go faster, but in their scheme of making things go faster, it made it slower, if that makes sense. Like with compiling shaders and then working with nodes. And then, you know, when I went to school for programming, like my degrees in software engineering design, like one of the biggest premises of learning C or C++ is like you're understanding like the heap and the stack, you're understanding memory allocation, deallocating. You're kind of getting the grand scheme of like the basics of that, which to me is like very important because then you can jump off to other programming languages or even node-based stuff and understand why things might go slower or how to make things go faster or how to make it in your way to go faster. That's just my opinion. You know, I just think that in the world where people are trying to make programming and all this other stuff super easy to get into or super easy to do, you kind of miss the mark of like why you need to do it in a certain way, if that makes any sense. That's just, I don't know. I'm just rambling as we're just waiting for this to finish. But that's just my view on it, you know. It's something that when people ask me like what programming language I should learn, and as a true man of Chad, I just tell them, hey, learn C++. And I was like, yeah, learn that. Learn that, suffer with everyone else who learned it. And then once you come out of it, oh, you'll come out a better person per se. Alright, we're on FBX. Editor environment. Yep, profile. That's the editor game SDK stuff. Okay. But like I said, it's just my opinion. I mean, all honestly, you can nothing wrong with like knowing C# or any other programming language. But it kind of makes me scratch my head because you think about it. It's like, oh, I want to make a game in CryEngine, or not even that, or I'm making a game on Unity using C#, and you're learning all the methods of that and understanding. But then you jump over to like Unreal and let's say, or CryEngine, and let's say you need to do something under the hood, like change something within the engine, and then you see C++ and your mind just explodes. Which is like in reverse is the opposite. Like I went from C to C++, and then once I mastered that and went over to like C#, like I don't know, it didn't blow my mind. I was like, oh, okay, this is C#, cool. It's like, oh, okay, I don't need to do pointers, I don't need to do that. Oh, it has a garbage collector, cool. I don't know. That's, again, these are just my opinions, in my humble opinion. I know there's just a lot of debate in the world for all of it. But to me, it's just, I don't know. I enjoy it. I enjoy it as much as I hate it. Mesh importer. So we're good on the mesh importer. Design. Oh, let's see. Let me close this folder. We don't need that anymore. It's CRYENGINE Source. So we go to engine. I added the pack files here just to have them. This is our CMake solution. Alright, cool. We're done. Alright, so 61 completed. One failed. And I already know the one that failed, so it doesn't matter. And if we go back out, go to my projects. Launch the editor. Let's see if we can get past the default textures. I'm sure it's probably my computer. Like, I don't think this would be an issue for anyone else. I think this is just, yeah, see, compiling default render resources. Haha! It was because I was in debug mode. Huzzah! So I did in profile. So do it in profile then. There we go. Version 1110, and here we are. See? Simple. And we open up the level. Now remember, the RC compiler now has to go through its steps and compile. You know, the RC compiler has to do through its steps and compile. So when you open up your project, and we got it. So everything's working. So now we're running around in our custom game engine. Sounds work. Everything's working. There's an error, but that's fine. That's usually happening there. But everything is working to the RC compiler engine. So build 0. So we're all good. And that's it. So, like I said, I'll tackle the game platform Steam. If anyone needs to know how to tackle it, just let me know on Discord, and I'll create a tutorial on like how to fix that. But everything else is working. So your sandbox is working. Everything is working. So I hope that you learned something today. I hope that everyone has an easier time getting the engine. I know it took us about like an hour, but once you do this, you don't have to do this again. So cool. If you need anything else, like I said, go over to the Discord and general. You can always find it here. I'm always talking. There's tons of us here. There's a cute cat. So whatever it is, go to the CRYENGINE Discord. Always message. I'm sure tons of us would try to help you. But I'm glad if you watched the whole video. Thank you again. You can subscribe. Hopefully I make more videos coming out soon as I get more work to do. But other than that, have a great day and see you guys next time.